And it is necessary for those people who rule over us and who rule over African people the world over, if those people are to stay in power, they must destroy our ability to love each other in a healthy sort of way. This is why...
We're back for another episode. This is the End of the Bench Media. I am Brian H. B. Williams. This is God is Community. God is Community is designed to uplift our community and put us in a position to whereas we can return to our former greatness, as well as setting the pace for our great-grandchildren's grandchildren. Basically, I want to add God into our lives, and I want to add God into our community so we can continue to build and expand upon what God put us here for. And not in a churchy kind of way, but in a way of the conforming to what the creator of the universe wanted us to do and be. That is help people, uplift people, inspire people, and enjoy people around us at any and all costs. Thank you for tapping in. And as I say every week, I thank my father, Dolores and John. Dolores and John, without Dolores and John, there would be no me. Without Dolores, who's my mother, and John coming together, they created me. I created this podcast, and we move forward in that manner. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, if you want to see other works that I have, you can go to www.theendofthebench.com, www.theendofthebench.com, and you can see my work anytime you want, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I also want to thank you all for tapping in. Your time is valuable. So without your time being used, you wouldn't have any, I wouldn't have anything to do. Thank you for your support. And again, the name of this podcast is God is Community, hosted by me, yours truly, Brian H. B. Williams. Thank you. Now, basically, this is a podcast about the game of war. And we're facing the game of war, but we're being the foot soldiers and the minions. What has happened at the end of this year, they're saying it has been bandied about that they're going to reissue the federal mandate for the draft, which means people between the ages of 18 and now even expanded to age 42 will be eligible for the United States draft, the military draft. And why is that important? The military draft has done a tremendous amount of damage to our community, especially in the working class world in itself here in these United States of America. And how does it done that? It takes away people from our community. It damages people in our community. And when you institute the draft, this is a working class draft. Let's be honest. The person in the head seat, whose number one job, contrary to popular belief, the president's number one job is to control the military. It is not to tell us what to do and then be in charge of all these foolish things. And you gave this dude this all-seeing eye and made him the most powerful man in the universe. No, he's in charge of the most powerful military in the world. And that's what has been misconstrued. We don't have the proper information, so we can't be as good as we can be because we are faced with a portion of the information. And why am I talking about the draft? Because when you're looking at the draft, again, we are in the crosshairs. See those young men right there to my right? They are the people who are going, young men and women, they're going to be the targets. They're going to be the targets. Whether you realize it or not, the Black community has paid a gigantic price in every war in these United States. When it was just the 13 colonies and they fought against King George and the United Kingdom, we were there. When it was the Civil War and we ended up having to dig up our fallen soldiers, and we created Memorial Day, which is in essence supposed to be in a week and a half at the beginning of May, because we dug up our ancestors who were in a mass grave and we properly buried them, and as a memorial to our people. And then the United States of America moved it to the end of the month and it became a national holiday. But we started that. We made major contributions to World War I and II. We made major contributions to the Korean War. We suffered tremendously in the Vietnam War. Oh, it was only this many people died in the war, and it was only this percentage of people. But if you have a community that has 336 years of enslavement, and then you have a last 163 years of Jim Crow segregation, Ku Klux Klan, redlining, put in certain areas, discriminatory practice, not being allowed in the big in the new big deal by Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Everybody try to say the New Deal was beneficial to the country. Yeah, it was beneficial to white America. And we fought for civilian rights, civil rights. It's not to be civil and peaceful. No, we fought for civil rights. And then we were put in the Vietnam War. One of the things the late, great Dr. King spoke against, the Vietnam conflict. We suffered. Why did we suffer? Because our men are already up for the first to get lynched. Our women are being lynched, terrorized. Our children are being terrorized. And then you put our men in a war and you send them over there and you continue those discriminatory practices, but you don't give them the mental and physical care that they need upon return. You and I, anybody who's watching this, you understand that the military isn't being taken care of when they come back. When they just get out, when you go to the VA, they don't get the proper care, just in and out soldiers. So you know a person coming from war, like when you heard from Desert Storms and Vietnam War, the Agent Orange and other chemicals that they're using to fight these wars. Are you giving them the mental assistance to being seen with children dead around them, adults being dead, the insides on the outside of their body? Do you understand that I have friends? I have a friend, and he has introduced me to his friends who were part of the Vietnam conflict, and they still are on 7 psychotic drugs a day 50 years later. Guess what? That means that they were separated from their children. They were separated from their family. What does that do? That makes the hood a more difficult task to navigate, because if you don't have your father, or your father dies, your uncles, your big cousins and things of that are standing there. Some of those people didn't have that. They've created children and they were not able to be fathers and big brothers and uncles to their children. We are still suffering from the Vietnam conflict, and now you want to put us in this war. Then you put us in Libya, and then you put us in Desert Storm, and then this chase for Bin Laden, the Afghanistan war, and now you want to take our young people by force. Some of those people from 1975 at the end of the Vietnam conflict up until December of this year, people signed up for this. So now you're going to force people to do it. They're even speaking about forcing people who are in these containment camps for ICE, hey, you can fight or you can go back to the camp. How in the entire hell are we expecting people to fight for this? We are in the crosshairs. We are. That's why we are in the crosshairs. Our community was attacked by, you even heard Richard M. Nixon and his cronies and his minions speak about how at one point we made it, we couldn't make being black illegal, but we did make the Black Power, we did make them criminals, we did force cocaine and heroin into their communities, and we put marijuana on the hippies, meaning the young white working class, and made them criminalize them. They speak and brag and laugh about this. You hear about how the African nations were going to the United Nations to become decolonized, and Richard Nixon and former President Ronald Reagan, he was the governor of California at that time. You hear them laughing and calling us monkeys, and that's what they did when they stood up and clapped. They need to be back in Africa in trees. That's what hanging from their tails. These are the people who are in charge. So when you hear people say it's getting bad, well, what was it if it's getting bad now? What was it in 1972? Not with 1975, 1980, when crack cocaine was pushed into our communities, when militarized weapons were found in our communities, and you have people that say, "Hey, man, see, we need to make better choices." Well, when you put someone in survival mode, when you put someone in a mind state that all I have to do is survive, I can't see past Friday. I can't see until May. And we're on the 21st of the month of April. I can't mentally and emotionally see to May, but you want me to make sound and structured decisions for 2030, 2035. That's impossible. I'm not saying that we shouldn't have made better decisions. I'm just saying, look at the situation and look at the leadership that put us in those situations, and look at the tasks that we had to overcome. Now, while we're overcoming this removal of programs, removal of funds, removal of housing, removal of jobs, stagnant wages being put in situations, and the dupe and the game that was played on us when they tricked us out of Dr. King's dream. Dr. King said, I want my people and everybody to have the capabilities to do everything everyone else does. They used it and said integration. Am I anti-integration? I'm not anti-anything. I'm just pro-uplifting my people and anybody in humanity who's doing good. That's all I'm saying. I want justice. Justice is the reward and or penalty for your actions. If you are doing right, you should have righteous results. If you're doing wrong, you're going to get negative results. And that's why I'm talking about this. How would this thing affect our community? Why is it so dangerous? It's dangerous simply because we're already behind the 8 ball. People in general are being brainwashed, whether it be social media, whether it be these sycophants that follow the Republican Party as if they're not doing anything wrong. And then you have the people who just immerse themselves in negativity. So we're up against that. And then we're up against people in our community who either buy into or too lazy to watch and pay attention and think about the things that we're dealing with. The things that we're dealing with are not made up in our head, brothers, sisters, ladies, gentlemen. They are not made up in our head. They are not something that we came up with. We are dealing with the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And the truth is there's certain factions of the government that does not want Black America and or working class America to be anything but subservient. And when you're dealing with that, and then our good young men, our good women could potentially be put into a war situation. They come back dismembered, mentally unstable, physically unstable, or not come back at all. How can you take the best of the best in a struggling situation and expect us to do well? It can't happen. It can't happen. It is not possible. So we're already facing discriminatory practices. We're already put in situations where we're underserved, undereducated, and uninformed. And then you want to take the best of the worst situations. You want to pull some of the best people out of that and put them in a situation where they can be mentally, physically, and spiritually damaged for the rest of their lives. That's why this is so dangerous. You don't understand what's going on. That's what's going on. And then we have this me, rugged individualism thing going on, and we keep buying into it. Well, I just have to worry about me. When you only worry about you, guess what? When someone attacks you, the first thing the average person says is help. When things go bad, God, can you? Well, don't only worry about you. Why would you ask God to help you and you only worried about you? These are the things I want you to understand, brothers and sisters. This is what you're faced with when you just say, well, I just got to take care of me. When you only worry about taking care of you, you fall victim to the system that you have totally ignored. Yes, much as I said on a few episodes back, you must clean your own front porch. But if your front porch is clean, you go help someone. You don't just gloat and kick your feet up and say, well, that's it. Because it's at some point, that negative energy that permeates throughout the universe in this case, will at some point vibrate towards you. And if you didn't help the person to your left, you didn't help the person to your right, you didn't help the person behind you, you didn't help the person in front of you, you didn't help the person at 10 o'clock, and you didn't help the person at 2 o'clock, if those people dissipate or eliminated, who's there to help you? And that's what I want you to understand. You are definitely in the crosshairs. And when you speak about crosshairs, draft organizers, these people want your kids in the draft because they're getting rich. And in a second, I will show you how they're getting rich. A lot of these people are misfits of the world. All these people, most of these people are not qualified. You got people who are in charge of healthcare who used to be addicts and have no medical background. Nothing wrong with being an addict. If you get clean, thank you, God bless you, and I pray that you never fall victim to that illness of addiction ever again. But this guy is uninformed. This guy used to be diametrically opposed to the people who's in charge of him, and now he's one of their chief supporters. And they're all media trained. And what does media trained mean? Media trained mean you ask me what time is it, and I tell you what's wrong with your watch. We're still talking about time, but you still don't know what time it is. You still haven't addressed the question of time. Some of these people are draft dodgers. Some of these people have zero military experience. Some of these people don't even respect the military, like the commander in chief himself was saying statements like, I don't respect people who got captured in war. I respect the winners. If you put your life on the line for the rights and the citizens of this country, I respect you. Even if you are diametrically opposed to me, I respect what you've done. I respect that you laid your life on the line. Now, you're foolish if you think I'm not going to exercise those rights, but I just look at these people and laugh at them. You got a guy in charge of the military who has zero military experience. I think from what I understand, and I could be wrong, this guy has an associate's degree in construction. Why is he in charge of the military? This guy in charge of healthcare. The vice president used to speak to no end on how destructive the current president is. You got other people who, like the Secretary of State, who destroyed in a debate the current president, and now he's your boss. No, I'm not going to work for someone I have zero respect for. But guess what? The organizers of these people, they're getting rich. They're fat cats. They have no problem with this because now they understand that I've moved into the upper class and my children and I are safe. And potentially my relatives are safe. It's you guys that have to worry about this. You got people who just avoided the draft whatsoever. They have no respect for the military. And then it's just a situation to whereas if I don't care about you and I've tricked you into believing what I say, it's a sad commentary. Oh, well, it was better in this situation. And the people I see people like Isaiah Martin. I see people like Roland Martin. I see people like, I can't think of the young lady's name. I see people all over the gamut. People like one of my favorite people. Let me read down your favorites. Professor Karen Hunter, Dr. Greg Carr. And I see these people fighting and offering information, and people treat the information like it's horrible candy. I don't like that. No, sometimes you have to watch the news. Saying I don't watch the news, well, it's depressing. If I said this once, I've said it 10,000 times. Something that's even more depressing is watching your son, daughter, niece, nephew, cousin, or neighbor not come back damaged physically or come back damaged psychologically. Do you really want that? If we are not engaging in government, and that's why this is not a game. If we're not engaging in the running and operation of our government, what exactly are we doing, ladies and gentlemen? We cannot allow these people to continue to gaslight us, make us believe one side is better than the other side. And you got people giving half truths, listening to celebrities, which again, they could potentially buy their children out of this. Why are we listening to people who are not in our struggle? You cannot sit in a Mercedes Benz, in a Maybach, and a Ferrari, sit in a penthouse and tell me about the hood. You used to know about the hood. You have participated in hood activities. You have family in the hood, but you can't tell me about what's going on in the hood anymore. I can't tell you about what's going on in the projects because I haven't lived in the projects since 1976. I got friends who live in projects. I got people who I hang out with who are currently living in the projects, housing projects, or urban housing. I got people who live there, but I can't tell you about that because it's not my experience anymore. I can't tell you about any housing or urban development but the one I lived in. I can't tell you about the one I lived down the street from. I can't tell you about the one that's in Los Angeles. I can't tell you about the one in Philadelphia because I haven't been there. So someone sitting in the Mercedes talking about what he used to go through, or what I used to go through, and what people are going through now, two totally different situations. And to stand up and pontificate and speak down to people and say what's best for people that you have no clue, you don't even engage with these people. It's outside. You have to be outside of your freaking mind to even pay attention to these people. But we allow these people, and you notice they have all one thing in common. They're not of working class value. They don't have those values, because if you have working class values, there's no way in the world, there's no way on God's green earth, under God's blue sky, that you could just allow these things to happen and then stand in front of the world and tell lie after lie after lie after lie, or should I say, engage in hyperbole, or stretch the truth, or avoid the truth. Because if I ask you a direct question and you obfuscate and go in the other direction, you are not addressing me. You are following orders. And the last time I heard somebody was following orders, it ended up in the Nuremberg trials at the end of World War II. Because people understand, even if it's wicked and evil at the top, hey, at some point, righteousness will prevail. It means, as the Bible says, the first will come last and the last will come first. So they understand that they're going to get theirs. They're just trying to pad their coffers in the meantime. And we are allowing this. And if you allow these people who are total buffoons and clowns to take your children off the streets of the United States and send them overseas to make profit, then I don't know what to tell you. See, these people are setting us up for failure because they don't anticipate enough of us catching on. And when they don't anticipate enough of us catching on, they continue to do what they want to do. They continue to fatten their pockets. And as they fatten their pockets and gain more control by stripping the rights of women, stripping away health care, robbing the coffers of Social Security, taking away SNAP benefits and things like that. But you don't have time to stop, engage, enhance, feed, educate, and move forward with the community here in the United States first. And you ran on a platform of America first. How in the entire world can you expect these same people who sit in front of you to lie? You got a commander-in-chief that literally said, he put himself in garb that made him look as if he was the Messiah, and said, no, I was being a doctor. He didn't have on a lab coat. He didn't have a stethoscope. He didn't look like any doctor that anybody in his lifetime has looked like. And guess what? He said it, and people went along with it. Well, it was a misstep. Hey, you know what? It was once told to me, excuses are the tool to build monuments of nothingness. And that's what's happening. They're building monuments of nothingness. You want my child to go, these people want my child to be taken and put into the military. And when he's put into the military, you want him to fight for people who don't even respect people that look like him. You've changed the name from Confederate generals, people who revolted against these United States, and say, hey, we don't want to be a part of this. We committed high treason and started a war against the country to separate ourselves from this country. And you want the name of those people on military bases, and you want those people to represent your country instead of people who have fought, been injured, been rewarded, been awarded, and been saluted. You don't want them because of the color of their skin and not the content of their character. So please, if you allow this to happen, it is on you. It is your child. It is your sister. It is your brother. It is your niece. It is your nephew. And understand, at one point, just like the movie Saving Private Ryan, if you were the only male in your family, you were exempt from the military. But at one point in this country, people didn't do things the way the government is doing right now. So you keep getting rocked to the left with the Republican and rocked to the right with the Democrats and rocked it to the left. Oh, well, we don't like Nixon anymore, and Nixon is bad, and Ford is bad. We're going to do Carter. And then we go rock right back to Reagan. Then we go to the R&B. and not rhythm and blues. Reagan and Bush years, 12 years of hell in the black community. The stripping of music programs, stripping of after school program, the stripping of educational program, the stripping of vocation out of high schools, the injection of crack cocaine, AIDS, militarized weapons. And these are the same kind of people. And then you get rocked to the left again with Clinton. And what does Clinton do? He put more of our brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, nieces, and cousins incarcerated than were brought here on the slave ships. You got people still incarcerated because of William Jefferson Clinton. But he was the first cool black president. Y'all was calling him the first black president at one point. Then they rocked back to Bush. And what did Bush do? Take 40% of the black wealth in the United States of America. Wealth is tied into land ownership. And land ownership, when that housing bubble burst, lending money, overextending money, and selling futures. And people got, the fat cats got rich, and the rich got richer, and the poor suffered. And that was in the Bush. And then you rock back with Barack Hussein Obama, and then you complain about him. He did this wrong. He did that wrong. Whatever he did wrong, but you know what he did do? It is my community. We suffer from high blood pressure the most. We suffer from diabetes the most. We are a major contributor for sickle cell anemia. We are the major contributor to colon cancer, breast cancer, cervical cancer. And he made healthcare affordable and affordable, and you complained about it. And now those same 17 million people don't have healthcare. So what are they to do? But you keep getting rocked this way and rocked that way. How about we stay steady in the middle, create and put ourselves in a position of power and create freedom instead of allowing a bunch of draft dodgers to talk and coax us into a situation that will put us in even a deeper hole. These people organizing the draft so they can eliminate and weed out people who could potentially stand up and knock them out of the way. And that's it. That's all. These people are getting rich on the backs of our children. They're getting rich on the backs of our ignorance. They're getting rich on the backs of our nonchalantness because we won't address things. We allow social media to guide us. We allow social media to dumb us down. We allow social media to stop us from thinking. And we are victim of our own successes because you're comfortable. Instead of telling people, I had a conversation with a very close cousin today, and she made the statement, I just want to be comfortable. Brothers and sisters, that's exactly what they want us. You're comfortable with a roof over your head. You're comfortable with something to eat. You're comfortable with clothes on your back, and you're comfortable driving potentially the vehicle you're driving. No, that's not the way. If you're a person of faith, and most people in this country are, according to your doctrine, no matter what it is, God wants you to be happy. How can you go from you again, which would make that kind of a sin, wouldn't it? Because if you just want to be comfortable and God wants you to be happy and you stay here comfortable, you're violating his wishes. So I'm going to put God on you. You don't want to be comfortable where they want you to be. You want to exceed. There's parts of this world that you need to see, so you can broaden your horizons, so you can understand what's going on. When you see other people living comfortably, when you see them happy and it far exceeds your comfort, you should want that. I'm not saying items and things make you happy, but guess what? If you're comfortable in a studio apartment, how much better would you feel in a 3-bedroom house? And if you get a 3-bedroom house in a traditional urban area with people right next to you, how much better would you feel with 2 acres of land around you? And that same 3-bedroom house in that same basement, taking care of yourself. And if you're comfortable being an employee, what's wrong with striving to be the employee of the month? And then the department supervisor, then the department manager. But these people don't want that. See, the better off you are, the worse off they'll be. Because instead of making $1 million a year, they'll have to survive off $500,000. But that $500,000 will make everybody flourish. And that's what they allegedly are here for, but they're not participating in that type of thinking. They're participating in selfish thinking that controls people and their mind, and they will disregard the working class and the striving, because I will not call you poor. They're looking to destroy those people and or control those people. This is why in Europe during the Dark Ages, only 2% of the people could read. 2% of the people could read, because if you know you have knowledge, if you have knowledge, you're in that change, you reduce their power, you may actually destroy them. See, but at this point, it's time to upset the setup. You must upset the setup. It is, and we have the element of surprise. It's a setup. Now, what I want you to understand is this. Some people call that other people won't. Laugh now and figure it out when you get home. But what I want you to hear is this. This is why you must broaden your horizons. This is why you must pay attention to more than social media. Pay attention to more than what your friends say, and get past and go and dive into things that to where you're uncomfortable. You don't always want to be comfortable. The uncomfortable is where you want to be. Remember, a seed is uncomfortably in the ground. A caterpillar is uncomfortable in that cocoon. And I would probably assume as the child grows in the womb, he's uncomfortable. That's why he comes out of the mother and grows into an adult. So if you stay uncomfortable, you never grow, develop into what God wants you to. I'm going to show you something. Listen to this, and I'll be back shortly.
Are making millions after Donald Trump makes a major announcement. Now there are questions. Is this insider trading? The BBC's found a pattern of spikes in trades just before Donald Trump says something that moves the financial markets. For example, 9 days into the war with Iran, Trump said in an interview that the war was pretty much complete and oil plunged. The first time the public would have known about that was 3:16 p.m. US Eastern Time. But market data shows a surge in trades 47 minutes earlier. Another case involves the online predictions platform Polymarket, in which the president's son, Donald Trump Jr., is an investor. One account made nearly $500,000 by correctly predicting the removal of Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro the day before he was seized. The account changed its username and hasn't placed any more bets since. These activities have raised suspicions of illegal insider trading, using information that isn't available to the general public. Polymarket told the BBC that it proactively works with regulators and law enforcement to ensure market integrity. There are also people that say that some traders are simply getting good at guessing when the president is going to say something significant. Donald Trump Jr. didn't respond to a BBC request for comment, nor did the White House, though it's strenuously denied allegations of insider trading in the past.
Now, as you see, even though that's a slight contradiction when I say I got that from TikTok, but also that is from BBC. The BBC put it on TikTok. BBC, if you're not aware, is an international news organization that they have no ties to these United States, and they are allegedly telling the truth at every chance they get. But this is why you have to ask the question: why are they going to war? According to them, they went to war for the safety of this country. But when you look into it, you find out that Barack Obama, 9 years ago, or even longer than that, had an agreement with these people that they took all their uranium and gave them their money back. And now he's giving them 10 times the money back, and they're keeping some of their uranium. So they could create a nuclear weapon. This dude is potentially or allegedly creating chaos. He's wagging the dog, like in the late 90s movie. He's wagging the dog so chaos can ensue, the markets can change, and he can benefit from the markets. People, these are not happenstances. Why are they going to war? We're going to protect Palestine. We're going to take Israel. We're going to fight the boogeyman. Why is it always a boogeyman in the country? Venezuela. What was the boogeyman down there? How they are identified as a third world country, which means they have no chance against a country like the United States of America if they decided to attack. What's the play on that? Now he's talking about Cuba. Cuba is the next target. Oh, in my entire life, people have been talking about Cuba. Why are we even talking about taking over countries in 2026? Iraq, they are a threat. They haven't been a threat in God knows how long, or if they've ever been a threat at all. So why is it that 8, 12, 16 years ago, the Ukraine was being attacked and everybody was up in arms and we need to stop, but these brown countries, nobody cares. These African countries, you Libya, Barack Obama was part of that. You removed the Libyan president. I'm not saying that Muammar Gaddafi was the nicest man in the world and a pristine leader, and he's not to be questioned. But you know what I do know? When you used to live, when he was in charge, he was in Libya, you wanted to go to the United States and go to school, he would pay for it. You got your own house. Housing was free. They had a 98% literacy rate. There are a bunch of benefits that were in Libya at the time of Muammar Gaddafi that are not in play here in America. I know that. You when you're not praying to the same God as these people are, you are the boogeyman again. So why are you going to war with people who have a different God? Isn't that what the Crusades were about? So you went around assassinating people because they didn't believe in the deity that you believed in too. Now, what you're doing is taking oil and land and manipulating things, and you're using things like the stock market and gambling websites to make millions because you don't think they could be tracked and people are paying attention to everything everywhere. That's why people make the statements. Things are getting bad. They're not getting bad. They've been bad. These things have been going on. Do you understand? My mother was born in 1947. Israel was the place we call Israel was created the year before that. So don't tell me about things are getting. Things have been. It is a continent by the name of Africa that it isn't really, that wasn't even the original name. Those lines that you see on the map of Africa were created in a conference in which these European countries divided up their continent like it wasn't, like those people were not inhabitants already. France is still living off countries in Africa. There are some countries that still are not liberated. You got people, places like Haiti, commonly known as Haiti, still being dominated by France. They're still paying France. Why are we paying other people to live where we are indigenous to? These are the questions you must ask. We can no longer sit around and allow people to dominate us and tell us lies. We must upset the setup. We must realize what's going on. You see people getting rich on top of your head. You see people who are willing to jeopardize your children's lives for their financial gain, and you still talking about Democrats, you still talking about Republicans, you still talking about this, but you're not talking about independence, you're not talking about coming together, you're not talking about unifying, and you're still making statements like, I'm really not into politics. Will you be into politics when they come take your child, niece, nephew, cousin, neighbor, friend? Will you be into politics then? Understand this. My son is 32 years old, which means he's 10 years eligible for this foolishness or madness. Yeah, well, he's my only son, and legally they're not supposed to, but legally they're not supposed to do a lot of stuff that they're currently doing. So I don't want to hear about legally because you won't engage. You don't know your state representative. You don't know your city councilman. You don't know your state senator, U.S. senator. You don't know your governor. You don't know these people, and you're not fighting and standing up against them, and you're not preparing. In the event in November, we overtake this, and they stood in front of the world and said, some of us are going to go to jail if we don't win the midterms, and that's why they're trying to mess with your voting rights. You got people sitting around that vote don't count and it don't mean nothing. Well, I've never seen any rich and powerful people try to take things from people that didn't mean anything. Because in the event that working class America, white, black, Latino, or Asian, ever wake up, or indigenous ever wake up and say, we're going to do what's best for working class people, the setup is upset. See, how is it that you live in Mississippi, a state predominantly populated by people from my community, but the people who are anti-us control the state politically? You got paid places like Alabama, same thing. Louisiana, the same thing. How is that possible? How is it that I'm not going to give you that speech. Oh man, your ancestors died for the right for you to vote. No, your ancestors died so you could control your future, the control that they didn't have. They didn't want the control. They did not want for the foolishness to continue. And we've gotten comfortable. And in that comfort, we are falling asleep. And when you sleep, you're subject to an attack. People, as long as there's people on this earth, there will be people attacking you. Black people, for whatever reason, we are the target of that. Whether you know or you don't know is not my concern, but we are the target of those attacks. Now, if you want to just continue to be subject to those attacks, fine. That's fine and dandy. I understand. Some people are not up for the fight. Everybody isn't a soldier. But if you love your wife, your significant other, you love your husband or significant other, if you love your children, you love your nieces, nephews, cousins, neighbors, friends, and anybody you're affiliated with, you need to wake the entire heck up. And when you wake up, you'll take action. And when you take action, you can defeat the enemy. And the enemy is anybody who's directly and diametrically opposed to your happiness and pure joy. We can get into the box of crayons and this group and that group. But you know what all of us have in common? We really just want to be happy. We really just want peace. We want tranquility. We don't want chaos. We don't want to fight at every turn. We don't want to engage in destruction of the people around us and the people near us. It is a damn shame that we've allowed people to push us into these corners in which a lot of us have the same issue. Surviving to tomorrow. Food, clothing, and shelter. Like the RZA from the Wu-Tang Clan and the 5% Nation. They mentioned 12 jewels. Knowledge, wisdom, understanding. Food, clothing, shelter. Food, clothing, shelter. Love, freedom, justice, and equality, love, peace, and happiness. You can't have one without you can't have the top without the bottom. And they all tie in. People, stop ignoring the fact that you have a ton of people who are attempting to control, dominate, and destroy you. Stop allowing people to push you away from humanity and push you into corners. Look, I've said it 1,000 times on this show. Look at me, I'm lying. Like, oh boy, be lying when you do that. I've said this 1,000 times on this program. We are a tribal world. Everybody has a tribe. Everybody has a tribe. You have your friend tribe. You have your communal tribe. You have your cultural tribe. You have your racial tribe. You have your country tribe. And then there's other countries throughout the world, and they still have tribes in and out, up and down, left and right of that. We have those things. I'm not denying those things. I would be a fool to deny one of those things. But while we're conducting ourselves in a tribal, when we have a tribal manifesto, what I want you to understand is this. All of those tribes work in concert with God and the world. And if you allow people to separate you from the tribe of humanity for the tribe of finance and money, that's when you lose. People, you need to be the manifestation of study, not the manifestation of money. When you learn, you grow. When you grow, you should do better. And when you do better, you can help. A lot of people talk about, see, I changed it to God's community, and a lot of people, it's going to throw a lot of people off. Oh man, I don't go to church. I don't go to this. I don't go to that. See, they be this and they be that, and they're this, and this is what's wrong with the church. Well, if you were looking for a perfect situation, you're right. Don't go to church. But if you're looking for the perfect church, make sure you're perfect before you walk in. See, if you not perfect going in, you're going to make the church imperfect. You're going to be exactly what you say is wrong with the church. If you don't like the Urban League, which is a voluntary program, the NAACP, you volunteer to be there. Why don't you go in there and fix things? If you don't like the way the government's working, why don't you engage? If you don't like the way your community is being run, why don't you stand up and start cleaning up physically and politically? Otherwise, again, you don't have the right to complain because you're not ready to fight. If you're not ready to fight, then just continue to get whipped and deal with what comes to you. With that being said, I want to thank you guys for tapping in. If you want to reach out to me, you can always reach out to me here at the end of the bench at gmail.com, the end of the bench at gmail.com, THAENDOFDABENCH.com. I want to thank you for tapping in as always. If you are new, please, if you're on YouTube, please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe, like, comment, help your man out. This is Brian H. B. Williams. See you shortly with another episode. Thank you for tuning in. 2 fingers, 1 word, and I am out.
Stop name calling one another. Stop cursing one another. Stop gossiping about one another. Stop squabbling with one another. Stop being discourteous and disrespectful to one another. Stop fighting one another. Stop killing one another. Stop using and selling drugs to one another. Stop throwing down trash where black people have to live, work, and play. Did I say stop stealing, stop robbing? Now, as I said, the pressure of the white supremacy dynamic that forces black people to think negatively about themselves and set up negative environmental conditions will produce these negative behaviors. You see, but that's just like somebody putting you in check from the other side of the board. So you have to learn the tactics and strategies, the behavioral tactics and strategies, do you see, that will stop that from happening. So you're constantly on the offensive and the defense about preserving or evolving and developing a very positive image and concept.